Talk about weird luck. The O.E.M was training cadets at Pier 92 on September 11th. 200 or 300 cadets were there learning the proper procedures in case some kind of disaster hit New York. Total coincidence. We were booked 4 or 5 days before the attack happened since we're normal special events lighting subcontractors for the pier. We were booked 4 or 5 days before the attack happened since we're normal special events lighting subcontractors for the pier.
And we selected Pier 92 as our command center. And the reason Pier 92 was selected as the command center was because on the next day, on September 12th, Pier 92 was going to have a drill. It had hundreds of people here, from FEMA, from the federal government, from the state emergency management office, and they were getting ready for a drill for biochemical attack. So that was going to be the place they were going to have the drill. The equipment was already there. So we were able to establish a command center there within 3 days that was 2.5 to 3 times bigger than the command center that we had lost at 7 World Trade Center. And it was from there that the rest of the search and rescue effort was completed. One other point, and then I'll turn to questions.
Joining us now is Pete Bicarsi, a rescue worker with the National Urban Search and Rescue. It's part of FEMA, the Federal Disaster Relief Agency. He's from Denver, but he's among those digging deep here in New York City. Also Tom Kenny from the...
To be honest with you, we arrived on late Monday night and went into action on Tuesday morning. And not until today did we get a full opportunity to work the entire site other than the spot at Church and Day to which we were deployed.
Tabletop exercise called Red X. Red X was a attack of bubonic plague in the city, a terrorist incident. It was conducted at O.E.M with about 70 different entities, agencies, and locales from the entire metropolitan area. 5 minutes into that drill, everybody forgot it was a drill. It became so intense. And as part of that drill, we quarantined Manhattan because we did not have enough information as to what we were dealing with. That drill, the second part of that drill, was scheduled for September 12th on Pier 92. And for how we responded to the anthrax attacks in October of 2001. And we all had thought that the next area that we would be attacked would not be a conventional bomb. We would be attacked would not be a conventional bomb.
In its 3 tanks. FAA radars tracked the airliner as it followed the flight plan. But then, about 20 minutes into the flight, somewhere over upstate New York, it turned sharply to the south.
The news should have reported 20 minutes into its flight and already 7 minutes off course. Flight 11 flew over Albany, New York, the opposite direction from New York City, and then took another 20 minutes to fly south without anyone intercepting the flight.
Have identified 5 suspects that they believe were involved with this terrorist act, and 2 of whom may be brothers, apparently, reportedly. 2 others may have flown in from Portland and originated in Canada.
Who's been tracking the hijacking probe? He joins us, as we just saw, from our Boston bureau. Jonathan, what do we know about how these hijackers managed to board these 2 planes at Logan Airport in Boston?
Well, that part of the story is really yet to come out, how they actually got on the planes, other than apparently their purchase of 7 of the tickets that were used for the 2 flights were purchased with a credit card, a common credit card, which helped the FBI detain 3 individuals at the Westin Hotel today in Boston who are apparently associates of the hijackers. But how they actually get on the plane, the mechanics of that, I don't know.
And what do you know, if anything, about their whereabouts just before they got to Boston? Had they been in Boston for some time, or did they get there only just before the flights?
Well, here's what we understand. At least 2 of the hijackers apparently came down from Canada, we believe through Nova Scotia, boarded a ferry to Maine. From Maine, either getting off at Bar Harbor or Portland, Maine. They then eventually ended up on a flight to Boston. Now, there apparently may be other hijackers that entered through Canada by a different route, possibly by car. Overall, what we've learned is that a terrorist cell was apparently operating in Massachusetts, had its members traveling to Canada at various times, it appears, had been operating in Massachusetts for some time leading up to this. We've heard mention of Springfield and Western Mass as a post for some of these people, and essentially, they were able to hatch this plot in Massachusetts to some extent, and use Massachusetts as a staging area for the attack on New York.
Jonathan Wells of the Boston Herald, thank you very much for joining us.
Airport and driven to Portland, Maine. Now, the Maine State Police confirmed that 2 of the suspected hijackers were on a U.S. air flight out of Logan Airport. Again, one of the 2 planes that crashed into the World Trade Center.
15 minutes after becoming airborne, it veered off course. One passenger made 2 calls to his father. In one exchange, he said a flight attendant was stabbed. In the second call, he told his dad the plane was going down. Again, bound for Los Angeles with 66 people on board. Radar tracking information on this flight obtained by CNN seems to indicate the transponder was turned off, which would have made it tougher to see on radar. On board was Barbara Olson, a well-known attorney and frequent CNN legal commentator. Huddled in the back of the plane, Olson called her husband twice from her cell phone. She described the frantic scene.
She said that they were armed with knives and box cutters, cardboard cutters.
Even to Osama bin Laden.
Well, what they're doing is going back 2 years and going over all of the analysis they've had in this transformation of Al-Qaeda, which is the network run by Osama bin Laden. There are intercepts, and that has been talked about by officials in the government, SIGINT as it's called, Signals Intelligence. But they're also going back with clues back for the last 2 years as Al-Qaeda has tried to transform itself, Wolf, trying to bring in various groups from other countries, especially from North Africa. They're taking a close look at Algerians as well, because it was an Algerian terrorist group, GIA, which tried to also perform a similar terrorist incident, ramming a hijacked airliner into the Eiffel Tower. That was unsuccessful, of course. That happened back in the mid-90s. It was thwarted. So they're casting their broad net, looking at what the information was over the past 2 years, Wolf, and they have gleaned a lot of evidence from that period.
And I know, Mike, you have a sort of a handbook that the Osama bin Laden organization, Al-Qaeda, circulated, which was intercepted. Tell us about some of the tips they have in there.
Well, this was introduced in the trial of the bombers of the African embassies in Tanzania and Kenya. It is an Al-Qaeda operations manual, and it dissects precisely small things. For example, what Susan was talking about on the air just a few moments ago, how to rent an apartment. Let me give you an example. In one section called Security Precautions Related to Apartments, it reads, providing the necessary cover for people who frequent the apartment, avoid seclusion and isolation from the population, and refraining from going to the apartment at suspicious times. And it is preferable to rent these apartments using false names, appropriate cover, and non-Muslim appearance. Now, if these suspected terrorists are part of Al-Qaeda, certainly this manual would have been part of the game plan, so to speak, Wolf, they would have followed.
Mike.
What's happened. And I was looking at our TV monitors around the building, and I remember talking to Lieutenant Nesbitt saying, Mike, show me the heliport camera, because the plane came in right by where our heliport was in. I kept saying, show me the camera, and finally Mike says, it's blown up. That's where the plane came in, so we lost that camera. So I stayed in there for quite a while, and the guys there did a fantastic job.
Jester 59, Chief of Defense Protective Service, Pentagon. The phones were ringing off the hook. The guys in there were jumping on them. People were calling from throughout the Pentagon. I tried to get a security camera up on one of the television monitors to get a picture of what had happened. But all of the cameras in that area had been destroyed.
It would create violent vibration and create a loud boom within the building. So it was boom, 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 and that kept, as it got closer, it got louder and louder. We just covered up and hoped for the best.
In the streets below the World Trade Center,
every floor that had fell in a pancake fashion. One floor would hit the other floor, and every time that happened, there was just tremendous boom and vibration.
I almost made it back to the stairway, and that's when the collapse of my building started. And yeah, we kept waiting for the big beam or the big piece of concrete to come and get us, and for us it didn't come. It wasn't an office floor, it was a mechanical equipment room floor. I couldn't find a chair. And I was way on the other side of the building, and something just told me, says, you know what, this isn't working out. But we're just going to have to drag her down the stairs. So I start running back to the stairway, and I get about 3 feet away from the stairway door, and the collapse starts, with us still inside.
And what did you, when you say the collapse started, what were you experiencing at that point?
The floor started moving like it was ripples on a lake, and then started hearing and feeling tremendous vibration as the floors were hitting each other. And
it was unmistakable. You knew the building was collapsing.
Definitely, it was our building was collapsing. Yeah. And finally got the stairway door open, and dove for the stairway. And one of my guys was waiting for me on the stairway, Matt Komorowski, and the collapse created a strong wind. It was all the air in the building was being compressed, and that wind blew him down 2 flights of stairs. It picked him up, and he injured his ribs in the process. But this wind was also filled with debris, and we're getting whacked with debris as the building is starting to collapse further and further down. And at first it was distant, and it got louder, and the vibration was more violent the closer it got. And it was also this eerie sound of twisting steel all around. I still remember the sound of steel, these massive steel beams that are roughly 5 feet deep, twisting around us like they were little twist ties off a loaf of bread. I'll never forget it.
The building started collapsing.
Just before I made it back to the stairway on the 4th floor, that's when the collapse of the North Tower started.
So were you separated from the other men?
Matt Komorowski was waiting for me on the landing, and everybody else was on the next flight of stairs going down before they got to the half landing. The vibration was so violent that they all fell to the ground. Matt Komorowski was actually picked up by the air currents that were being created from the compression of air inside the building with the collapse coming down, and he actually got thrown down about two and a half flights of stairs. So I dove for the stairway, and I just covered up as best I could.
So you made it into the stairway?
I made it into the stairway, made it to the landing of the floor.
Just describe what you experienced as the tower collapsed on top of you.
Well, it started out, the floor started to move. And since the collapse started about 1,300 feet away, the sound was off in the distance, and it got louder as it got closer. And you could hear the floors hitting the other floors, and every time that happened, it created tremendous vibration in the stairway. And you could also hear the sound of twisting steel all around you. And it got louder as the collapse got closer, and it would create violent vibration and create a loud boom within the building. So it was boom, 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 and that kept, as it got closer, it got louder and louder. We just covered up and hoped for the best.
In the streets below the World Trade Center,
A medical student named Eric Jones, who had initially pulled his car over the side of the road and started giving medical aid, jumped on our litter team to give us a hand. We would organize a group, and all of a sudden there'd be another secondary explosion, and we were pushed back 200 meters. I hadn't realized yet that a plane had hit. I was going on adrenaline. During that time, Colonel Anderson separated from us. He grabbed a fireman's mask off the truck and went to get us some intelligence.
Bodies and body parts were all over the place. I can't even count. Not, cops, firemen, EMS, anybody that was in the building when it blew up. Firemen, EMS, anybody that was in the building when it blew up.